Last crash, Eddie Gantt, owner of Jet Lending, shout out Jet Lending, hit us up, R2R, roughnecktorealestate.com if you need a loan. Anyways, he had he was taking houses back at a real big clip. People were signing deeds in lieu, and he said over and over again, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that this time. So we're going to underwrite stricter. If you don't have any cash in the bank, you know, I mean, we're getting tighter with underwriting. But the way that a lending company like that works, they use bank credit. They use credit lines. They have a ton of private money. I mean, it's an insane amount of private money. Probably, I don't know. I'm not going to put their business on the street, but they have an insane amount of private money. They use that, and then they use bank debt, bank notes. But in the last crash, they had a bank call $1 million line due. They just had to pay them off. And you know, of course, at that time they took back something. I don't remember what the number was, but they had, you know, several hundred rental properties at the end of it.
Dude, lenders aren't property managers. It drives me nuts. And people say that bank's a monster. They want my real estate. They don't want your real estate, dude. They don't. So there are very few that actually do. Most, no.
And so, anyways, they had Eddie tells it like this, and I need to really get Eddie in here and let him chop it up with us. But he would put a for sale by owner sign in the yard and a for rent sign in the yard, and whoever walked up first got it. So he was owner financing and renting. So taking that lesson from this time, when interest rates started creeping up, I was like, look, we're in an asset class that we were going to have more pressure than we did before. I know that because we're in the bottom rent. We're in bottom rent. We're not in very expensive rent. We have a little bit, but we're going to have more pressure because as households shrink, right?
Yep.
You know, I moved back in with my dad. You moved back in with your dad. Probably not us. We're probably bad candidates, but you know, people do move back in together or start roommating. You know what I mean?
At the lower end of the rent spectrum, I believe that's what happens. They consolidate households. People give it up, but more people need that price point rent, so there's going to be more pressure on it. Same thing with people buying a house. We're at a price point. I mean, we very rarely pay more than $150,000 for anything. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So we're at a price point where it's like there's going to be more pressure on people that want to own versus rent, that just have some value system that they can never rent, so they have to own, and this is all they'll be able to afford with their DTI and all that. So we felt comfortable in that. But here's the one thing I knew was going to happen. All this stuff that we had bought at peak purchase was not going to appraise if we waited to rent it out. We knew the appraisals were going to continue to get worse and worse as people fire sold in the neighborhood. So we knew that we were going to start getting up against appraisals. We also knew the banks were going to tighten lending restrictions. So they were going to want you to have more and more money in the deal. Okay. So we immediately went with the Eddie Gantt strategy and put owner finance and for rent on every single listing. And people were like, well, how could you owner finance something? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to figure it out. You know what I mean? If the private money person that's there don't want to ride with us on the owner finance.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We don't have a buyer yet. Once we have a buyer, we'll figure that one out. So we did that. And then the notes have sold so well. People were like, why are you selling the notes? I'm like, because I got to recapitalize my private money, but they're still selling. They sell so quickly.
It's funny you say that. So we have some real estate, a lot of real estate actually, that we thought was going to sell easily to the cash market or conventional lending. It didn't. And we realized, like we know, you can sell it for more money on notes. So it hasn't been quite as strong now as it was last year, but it's still a substantial markup from the mobile homes to single family and then also to land tracts under 10 acres.
Dude,
we've done a fair amount of that. So we converted those to notes instead of selling for cash. I got a piece of land right now. It's a 10-acre tract just outside of San Antonio. Someone's buying it on a note for $145,000.
Okay.
It wouldn't sell for $100,000 on MLS. So we took it off. A realtor brought us a seller finance deal, and then we're going to sell that note for like $125 or $130. No, we're going to still do better that way.
You're still going to do better. Now let me run another idea by you. We just had a note buyer bring us a bank that loaned him money to buy a note.
Huh.
Now I've heard of people. We've refinanced our notes.
Yeah,
we have.
That's what I see. Folks buy it all, then they refinance.
They refinance it, but I've never seen one let you go to the marketplace and buy one. So we got a meeting with that bank tomorrow. I'll give you their contact info.
That's interesting. I know a guy in our town that does that. He uses bank money to buy, but he's been doing it for 30 years. He's got a $40 million portfolio.
And this guy's a brand new real estate investor.
Huh. Wow, that's interesting.
I was like, this is the most aggressive bank we got.
Wow, yeah.
They're going to, we need to know who they are. Now, most banks aren't taking on new clients. They're riding with who their margins are getting squeezed, so they got to loan money.
Yeah.
But they're riding with who they know can perform. So, it's getting tougher and tougher for the newbies. It's getting harder and harder for the experienced people that, didn't nurture banking relationships, that didn't nurture relationships the whole time. And for us, it's kind of like we're shifting strategies. We're going to a wholesale strategy. We're, all of our transactional income that we need to make is no longer flip money.
Yeah.
No longer flips. We're going to wholesale model, and we're just turning our network, our personal network, our friends, families, cousins. I wholesaled one to my nephews or my wife's, not my wife's, my
nephew's wife,
my niece's husband. Okay. And here's the crazy part. So I wholesale this deal. It's a duplex. I'm like, here, put a $7,000 assignment fee on it. Here you go. You're in it at 80. Yeah. You got a 790 credit score. You're probably going to own this forever. But go ahead and list it and try to sell it and see what happens. He lists it for 140. It's under contract.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
wow.
Bro, in December, I'm like, he's like, oh man, I'm like, don't start spending that money. Like, just hold back.
Let it close.
Yeah, let it close first. You got to go through some inspections, appraisals, all the things. You like what you've seen here? Find Braxton on Tinder and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just keep swiping. He's on there.